Hey, hi guys, welcome back. All right, so this is going to be a today's topic video. It is going to be for the 10th of April. Sorry, my dog is over here licking my hand. So, hi baby. Hi. You okay? What you need? He might pop up. We'll see. In the meantime, I'll try to keep my cooing to a minimum. Let's see what our story begins with. Five of Cups. Not the greatest way to start. Five of Cups can certainly be. Well, come here then. Come here, darling. Want to come in? You may come in. Come here. If you're going to be making a ruckus, you may as well come in. Come on. Yeah. Okay. So, in case you're wondering why I can't deny this adorable fellow, it's because he is a full on dog hugger. And yeah, and I love him. And I need you too. So it is what it is. Sorry, guys, you can just fast forward this part. What? You were a hot dog? You were running around? Yeah, I know you were. You made a ruckus in the Capricorn video. Sorry, everybody, but this is Aries. If you haven't met him before, he is he is my blue healer, and he's very, very loving and very attached to me as I am to him. So he shows up sometimes. Okay, back to business. Forgive me. We've got this Five of Cups. Five of Cups is a big disappointment. I mean, this could be a pretty massive disappointment, the kind of thing that someone has perhaps, well, they made a big mistake here. They hurt somebody. In this case, we have King Arthur and, Lancelot and that kind of love triangle that occurred because Lancelot stole away his lady. So we actually, in that particular storyline, I'm not saying that's what the story is of this particular tale we're about to tell, but there could be an element of someone feels like they did a friend wrong. And here we have again an emperor. Here's the thing: if an emperor got played by somebody or someone did something unkind to them, you know what? An emperor is an emperor because they go, well, then that's if they were fickle in their affections for me, then I'm glad that they went with somebody else. I'm glad that they chose Lancelot instead of me, because if they wanted someone other than me, then that's who they belong with. An emperor doesn't feel it like, no, they were supposed to be mine. I must hold on to them. I have, jealousy. An emperor goes, well, then they weren't my person, were they? So we have an emperor here who may have been through some kind of betrayal. But what's interesting is they don't seem to be the one that is miserable. In fact, it is quite the reverse. Whomever did the betraying is the one who is quite miserable now. So let's flip this story in a different direction and say, because I never read for genders. But this could be a situation where we had, someone who has chosen to leave a connection and get together with some third party, and it's the person who got with the third party that is feeling the sorrow, not the individual that got left behind. The individual that got left behind is just fine. So masculine or feminine, they're showing up as an emperor. Not only that, but with this Prince of Sacred Circles, they are saying, I'm just steadily looking toward my future and moving into my future. It's one day at a time, and I'm already on this progressive path to change my life. I'm an emperor. That's what I do. I just keep building. Oh, so someone's not my partner. They chose somebody other than me. They betrayed me. I'm really not giving it any thought. Like, why would I? That's not what an emperor does. Okay, but obviously we began with this tremendous grief. So why is the person who did the betraying the one in all the grief? Actually, let's go with this deck. Caught my eye. Tell me about why that is the individual having the grief. The Devil in the reverse. Oh man, because they're wishing so much they could undo it. They're wishing they must have. Okay, it's gonna get hard to explain. The person who betrayed the emperor, whether they're masculine or feminine, doesn't matter, but that person, they may have left behind their toxic ways. Basically, as soon as they did that, they did dirty to the emperor by a weird twist of fate. It was that action of betraying an emperor that hit them like a ton of bricks, what their behavior has been up until now. All of a sudden, they are no longer toxic, but it happens with that last act of toxicity that makes them see something in such a different light. So now they are filled with the grief and despair because they're no longer toxic. They can actually now identify that their behavior was really crappy. And now they're seeing it and feeling it like full force. Oh my God, that's who I was. That's what I did. I'm not toxic at this point. But it's weird how that last act of doing something, a betrayal, something totally toxic, is the turning point for them. We have the Hermit. Boy, this person is on a big old deep journey right now, aren't they? It's like in a flash, I feel like they don't even want anything to do with this third party now. You notice how the third party is like clinging to their arm. Now, I don't usually tell stories about third party stuff, but this is not so much about that. It's about toxic behavior. If somebody had an emperor or an empress and then they do dirty to that emperor or empress, and for the first time in their lives they're actually hit by, oh my God, that was an emperor and empress that I dealt with. I can see how they carry on. I can see how they move forward in life. Oh my God, they were an amazing person. They were better than me. I betrayed them, but they're the ones who actually have more dignity and grace. I didn't, you know, make them angry. I didn't play games. They didn't play games with me in return. They were really always who they said they were, and I messed them around. And now all I want is to like wish that I didn't have this third party situation around me. This is not anything that I want at all. They can only think of the emperor at this point, which is so ironic considering they betrayed the emperor in this. But it kicked them into this huge journey of like acknowledging themselves, seeing the flaws perhaps in themselves, seeing their devilish behavior for what it was, seeing like, why did I do that? Why did I want to betray an emperor? Maybe because they thought the emperor was more powerful than them. And so they wanted to like take the emperor down a notch by doing something, dirty. Even if they loved the emperor, they still wanted to take something away from an emperor. But that's the whole thing. You can't undo an emperor or an empress because they're not made of stuff that crumbles. They are people that go, look, your actions are your own. You betray people, that's on you. That's your karma to carry. I don't have any karma to carry in this. Oh, you were able to, whatever, get a third party. Have a nice life with them. That must be who you wanted. So it's a good thing that you chose them instead of me, or it's a good thing that they chose to be with you instead of me. If somebody is that, fickle in their affection, then of course that wouldn't be someone I would want in my kingdom anyway. So you just resolved the issue for me. I didn't even have to get involved. And I think that attitude is something maybe this person had never seen before. They've never been faced with it, and that alone, it kind of like it shames this person more than any other thing could have ever impacted them. I don't know that anything could have shamed them more than an emperor acting like an emperor, especially in the face of somebody doing somebody dirty. It's a very interesting, like, wow, the tables have totally flipped. So on this little private journey that they're on, Four of Cups in the reverse, it's not even like they missed an opportunity. It's more like they are so focused on like maybe learning about themselves for the first time in their life. Um, saying, I don't want to be toxic anymore. There's grief here, but then with that Four of Cups in the reverse, they're not I think the deeper they go down this hermit's journey of learning about themselves, particularly about their emotions, the more they're almost like consumed with having to just look at themselves in the mirror right now. It's not even like, oh my God, I lost the emperor. I think that they know darn well they could not even come close to being near the emperor again. They don't have the like the cosmic permission to even stand beside the emperor at this point, because they're nowhere near the emperor's vibe. By the way, this is a really sloppy shuffle that I just did. You heard the card just, and they just kind of fell out, but we're going to keep them because I was attempting to shuffle. We have Hanged Man. Yeah, they're in this deep, like they're hanging here in this like Mothman status, this chrysalis. Um, there's a lot that they are trying to see from a different perspective, but there's also this element of like a transformation taking place, so there's a delay in all of this. We have a Two of Cups, we have a Five of Wands. Hang on, I have to cover this card up a little bit because she's got her birthday suit on. We've got the Page of Swords there, and she's covered in dragon tattoos because it's all about the dreams, the wishes. We have a High Priestess, and we have a Two of Wands. They're basically in this energy now where they're thinking about, they may be saying, this emperor who I did wrong was the greatest agent of change in my life that I've ever known. And as I'm thinking about all of this and I'm seeing it so differently, they might be even saying, oh my God, they were a twin flame. They were a soulmate to me. They were the person that, if you notice how they're different colors of unicorns, it's almost like they're looking at it going, maybe we actually had a lot that we mirrored each other in, but I was completely the shadow side of the mirror and they were the bright side of the mirror. Maybe this person even had a lot of anger inside of them, especially because why did they choose to have an emperor in their life and then choose to betray the emperor? That it felt like it was almost done out of spite. And so I'm wondering if this person had a lot of anger, like that the emperor showed up as everything that they thought in themselves. I don't have any of those traits and it makes me angry. And so what will I do? I will do something mean behind the emperor's back to try to like punish them or lower them, but it's impossible to lower an emperor. The only choice this person actually has is to elevate themselves. The emperor will never step down and join them at a lower vibration. That's not how emperors operate. And it's interesting because it's like, if they really were a twin flame match with the emperor, but they were in their complete shadow side, and really it's because of some, like backlog storage of anger and jealousy of anybody that they view, particularly that emperor, someone who they viewed as like, we're supposed to be like in union, but you're better than me. You're all the good stuff that I wish I was, but I'm not. So what do I want to do? I want to crush that. And now they're having to look at it and they're seeing it for what it really is. And they're also seeing the depth of what this connection really was meant to be. This is, they're having a lot of courage to be able to look at this, if that is indeed what they're doing with this Five of Wands. I mean, they're thinking it over and over and over again. And they are still very much, even at a distance, they are like spying on the emperor and trying to almost learn how could they be more like the emperor. Their great dream and wish would be to somehow be able to still have the emperor like a part of their world, or be able to tell the emperor all of these things. I think that they're subliminally maybe trying to think about, how could I ever convey all of this? There's a lot still hidden though. This person's journey, like they got to go further down the rabbit hole. They are not yet. This person has a lot of growing to do. They have not come out the other side yet. They're only just now learning about maybe their own pent up like frustrations and the things that cause them to be so toxic and cause them to do something unkind, specifically to try to one up somebody behind their back. The very person that it turns out they were, I would say, like supposed to have as a match in their life, and that is the very person that they actually damaged things with intentionally to try to one up somebody. I'm sorry, this is not a very pleasant storytelling, but it's like this person was so unhappy with what they aren't that they had to lash out in the attempt to take away the power that they perceived someone had over them, someone who was above them, someone who they actually loved, but instead of love, it was this twisted, like, jealous streak, and so they wanted to hurt that person that they love. The thing is, you can't hurt an emperor with stuff like that, because the emperor just says, all you've done is you've proven that you aren't supposed to be in my world. You aren't at a vibrational level that could match me. So they didn't succeed in doing anything other than they finally are looking at themselves. But they got a lot more to do. They got a lot more. Let me take one more look at down the rabbit hole card with that Two of Wands. They got so much more that they still need to learn. I just don't see them. 10 of Cups. They got a lot to learn about what they view as happiness. This person, even now, even though we see them like, maybe figuring some things out and really on this journey of contemplation, if their vision of what happiness looks like isn't really yet healthy, and I don't really see how it could be that quickly, just because they learned one major thing. We saw them as the Hanged Man in that chrysalis phase, and then we see that Two of Wands. What they still need to look at is they can't just say, oh my gosh, I was so toxic, I can't believe I treated an emperor like that. They were everything I wanted. Now I don't want to be anywhere near this third party that I initially was like, haha, I'm going to give this third party and I'm going to like one up this emperor behind their back. That they no longer have a taste for that, but that still doesn't mean that they have yet figured out what does healthy happiness look like. They may never have experienced healthy happiness. Maybe they still, if they used to get their rocks off on like being rude and one-upping somebody behind their back, if that was their idea of like winning and that would give them that little surge of happiness, that is a very bitter, ugly trait to carry inside of them. That's not happy. That's sabotage, and sabotaging, like good people just to try to one up them. That's a big thing. Baby, what are you eating? What you got down there, honey? Did you get a card? No, don't chew on Mama's books. Don't do that. Don't do that, baby. Sorry. He's got my dream book down there. If that's what they were doing, then maybe they've never actually pursued anything genuinely happy. So that's a whole nother avenue. It's not just letting go of toxicity and bad behaviors and jealous behaviors and suppressed, unhappiness that made them lash out and be this way. But they also need to first take another look at themselves and say, okay, if I can walk away from all kinds of toxicity, then how do I build something healthy? What is it that would really be happy? What does happiness genuinely look like for me? And they may have a whole nother realm of stuff that they need to look at there. If they're going to build themselves into a better person, they've got a lot more growing to do. I want to go look at the Emperor now. I don't want to hang out anymore with them because they're on a journey and they've got more work to do. But where is our Emperor headed? Tell me about that Emperor. The Emperor seems to be headed, well, the Emperor does have there is a disruption. This did hurt them. The Emperor had at least a minor setback internally. This is like inside their head, inside their heart. When they think of this, it does hurt because that's a Three of Swords and that's a betrayal. And this is something that they're like, I'm not going to live in the betrayal. I'm not going to live in that heartbreak. I'm going to move forward from this. But are they ready for a new romantic partner? It kind of looks like not quite yet. Either they don't have somebody else on the horizon yet. They haven't met. What are you doing? What are you doing? You can have your deer antler. Sorry, sometimes I still have to check on him. Ten of Cups. See, the Ten of Cups is the most important aspect here for both characters. This Emperor, we didn't ask why was the Emperor with this person. How is it that they got tangled up with somebody who was that toxic? Because an Emperor wouldn't normally, right? And right now the Emperor is on one hand, they're on a similar journey where it's like they really want true happiness in their kingdom. That is what they ultimately do want to have. But how did the Emperor get roped into this mess with this person? Nine of Pentacles. So they might have just come across as somebody who was so stable, so secure. They had their life really orderly. They were, look, an Emperor is always going to be very attractive, right? We got a 10 of Wands in the reverse and an Ace of Swords upright. They might have actually known right out of the gate that that person wasn't 100% like healthy, I'll say. And yet they were like, yeah, but not everybody is in the same exact head and heart space. Sometimes, we meet people and we know that they're still dealing with some stuff, but we see a bond there. We can feel an attraction there that feels really profound and really important. And maybe this connection that we'll share will, I'll support that person in that last little way that they need to just totally like drop their burdens and be 100% the beautiful individual that I can see in them. Maybe this Emperor thought that was the case. And that would make sense considering maybe these two were twin flames. The Emperor can see themselves in this person. They can understand why that person would be wounded, and they could understand some of that person's behavior, that they were carrying a heavy burden and they were not judgmental about it. And they really said, look, I have a lot and I have plenty to share. And this is a person that I'm drawn to, and I can see they have a heavy burden. But the truth is this person is an amazing person and I can see that in them, and maybe all they need is somebody who's truthful enough to tell them that they are amazing. But in this case, I think it backfired. If the Emperor let this person into their world knowing full well this person had burdens, and they thought it's okay though. I mean, we all have burdens sometimes, and this person can shake them off, and I'll be 100% there with them because I've been there before. The thing is, I think that it backfired, and I think they didn't realize that this person at that point in their journey, they did not want to make anything better. They wanted to take the Emperor down. Totally different. That their burden was too heavy. Their emotional, spiritual burden was so heavy and so intense that what they really wanted was to just crash down the Emperor's world. Why should you be successful and happy if I don't feel that way? And now the Emperor is finally like, oh yeah, I guess I should have just let them work on their own burdens without me getting involved. But now I'm turning my attention to real happiness. So I think that the Emperor is reflecting. I mean, they did learn something here also, and they did suffer a gigantic wound, but they also they don't allow the wound to stop them from moving forward. Nine of Swords, Page of Pentacles. I feel like this Emperor is really focusing now on their happiness, but at the same time, the Emperor has learned something as well, that you got to really get to know somebody. And as wonderful as it is to like bet on someone, bet on the underdog, meet somebody where you go, I can see this person is still struggling, but I can see the good in them, and I'm so going to support them and bring them into my world. I think that the Emperor now knows I can't really do that, and I don't want to not be compassionate. I don't want to be judgmental toward anyone, but there is some stress for this Emperor now as they move forward, and they go, start slow, get to know people little by little, let them reveal who they are. If I'm going to have the real success and the real happiness that I really want to have, I probably can't I can't assume that somebody is going to like transform themselves the way that I could perceive them being able to, because they may not want to. So I really need to take it slow. I probably can't over offer to allow them into my life, or over, give them too much support. I can't do that until they show that they, would even want that from me. Because instead, this backfired. I think if this Emperor tried to be an amazing person to this this individual that betrayed them, I think that was part of the problem, is like, you're too awesome, so I'm going to betray you. The thing is, this was a head trip because, and you notice we haven't had the Two of Cups come out for the Emperor. How does the Emperor view that person that betrayed them? Let me just ask that. I mean, we can see over and over that they learned something. We've got a King of Cups sideways. The Emperor says, I don't even know if this person, I don't know what their emotions were, honestly. Maybe they were pretty twisted at the time that I knew them. Did they have emotions? Oh, yes. But if they played games, they wanted me, they cared about me, but then they also betrayed me. That's no wonder this is sideways, because it's like, well, they weren't loving, but they also weren't 100% not loving. They wanted to be around me, but then they wanted to crash me down to the ground. So they had very twisted energy, very twisted emotions. It was all over the place. So they think of that person as someone that, basically, I think they called it spot on. They're like, they might have loved me, but they also kind of hated me. And that's a real hard thing to try to comprehend. Please click off if any of these stories ever are like, you're over identifying with characters and it's upsetting you. Remember, these are fictional characters. I'm a fictional storyteller. I'm not a psychic. I wish I had that gift. I do not. So these stories are always 100% fiction. But sometimes it's like, just like if we watch a movie and the movie is making us cry, it's like there's a time to turn that off, right? We know that we're not those characters, but we're feeling emotion come up. And if it's negative, please always govern your own. And you watching because you enjoy my art, awesome. I want you here. But if anything makes you unhappy, please, I would rather you, take a break. So I just say that in this one because this is a tough one to describe. And it's not getting a whole lot lighter. Because this emperor's in still kind of like thinking about, why did this, how do I feel about this person that betrayed me? They're saying, honestly, this was a kind of person I probably needed to learn about. With this is gathering information. This Page of Swords is gathering information. This was a situation that I needed to learn about, how someone could love you but also want to destroy you. That's Two of Wands. It's not something that they can fully comprehend at all. They're of two minds about it, but they do hold themselves responsible and say, but if I knew that something was twisted, I always had the choice to remove myself from it. So like an emperor would do, an emperor tries to learn from it. They try to call it like it is. And then they also try to empower themselves and say, I always had a choice in, if I was getting a vibe that I didn't like. This is something that Hanged Man. They continue to think about this person. This is a very impactful situation for both characters. The Emperor was not unscathed by this. They don't just walk away and act like this was nothing. They really are still contemplating what they've learned out of this situation, and they may still be trying to comprehend why that person, like what made them be who they were. Even though the Emperor still wants to move forward and have success. Okay, so there's that Two of Cups. So they too may be arriving at the same conclusion as they've thought through this, that person was my Two of Cups. We were like almost identical, but one of us was in shadow and the other one of us wasn't. And maybe that's why we were so drawn together. And maybe this was a profound connection. But wow, what a powerful connection to be so powerfully damaging. So here's, I'm not a fan of that, other than is if we just say it was a powerful connection because it taught me so much. It taught me what my shadow side could look like if I ever went down that darker road. But to say that there was a profound pull between two individuals and that they learned a ton from this, I feel like that's a very meaningful, way to look at this. So do we have any final message? Because this is really long and it isn't super light and fluffy. We have a Three of Coins and we have a Knight of Coins. Somewhere way down the road, these two will likely communicate again. Somewhere way down the road. It probably won't be for a good long time. But it's also somewhere way down the road. There will be another connection. We got Ace of Wands sideways. I feel like I almost feel like these are the aftershocks that they're both still like reverberating from this really profound situation that had a lot of intensity, and then something so devastating and so wrong occurs, and then the separation happens, and then the energy of like, one person is going through all of the grief of what they've done and understanding their own toxic behavior, and then the other person, the emperor, is like contemplating their behavior as well, but what they learned out of it. And that takes time, and it's almost like a pulsation of like thoughts that ebb and flow, and then there's still this desire to move forward. And it's like later this story is actually not done between the two of them, is what this is saying. But it doesn't mean that there will ever be passion between these two, but there will be honest heart to heart conversation someday, is what this says. I don't know about any passion. What happens ultimately for our, we have a 3 wands for our emperor. Our emperor's life continues to blossom and grow. They really turn their attention toward their future. Their future is going to be amazing. Their ships are coming in. And what happens ultimately for the character that did the betraying? 5 of Swords. That's kind of it's kind of unfortunate, only because the 5 of Swords, it's like there's still a struggle and a battle. It's like in this particular lifetime, they have a lot to work through, but I will say that being with this emperor started that journey and got them on this journey that there maybe the rest of their life is going to be um settling karma, battling through things. The only problem is that there is some defensive energy, defensive when it comes to truth. Either they are really, they sometimes struggle with like admitting things and being honest with themselves, and then other times they are ready to be really truthful. I feel like they gain knowledge incrementally. They gain they're able to look more and more at themselves. But I don't think that these two ever come back into a union of romance. I think that they do sit down at the table someday on down the road and they communicate. But I think by that time our emperor is probably going to be at that wonderful 10 of Cups. So this is an example where a twin flame energy is not a 10 of Cups. The emperor is headed for this. As you can see, it's like the right person is out there for that emperor already. They need to keep gravitating toward it. That's kind of what that 3 of Wands was with their ships coming in. The emperor ends up going exactly the direction they're supposed to, but they are in full awareness that a twin flame was a really important interaction in this lifetime, and they will speak to that person again, but it does not look like there's any passion there. It looks like it's just a truthful conversation that may happen on a very like amicable terms. Like it's, we just saw the 3 of Pentacles. It's like, I mean, heck, that person might even reach out to them someday and say, there's, my life has changed so much, I've changed so much after how I treated you. They may be asking that emperor to like give them some piece of advice, or just wanting to convey something to that emperor later on, when the time is appropriate for them to communicate again. But I just don't see, we didn't see romance for these two. We saw a memory of it, the fact that there had been passion with that Ace of Wands sideways. But and you know what's interesting, and this could be a different twist on this also. You notice how we kept getting 2 masculines. This could be a same-sex couple, or this could have been a story of a betrayal where maybe 2 buddies were together, and the one buddy wound up actually stealing the other person's wife or girlfriend away from them, that and then they realized, I didn't do it for love. I did it because I wanted to take down this friend of mine that I really actually admired and wanted to be more like, but because I didn't feel I was good enough, I took something from my friend and betrayed our friendship instead. It could be a storyline like that. The bottom line is, this is not a story of revenge or hatred. This is a story of like understanding, wow, maybe twin flames come in a lot of different ways. Maybe this had nothing to do with romance between those two at all. Or like I say, it could have been gender is always irrelevant here, but I will just mention that because we did keep seeing, that King of Cups sideways and the Emperor, and even in the beginning of the story of, Lancelot and Arthur, this could have been a really different twin flame storyline. But the bottom line is there's so much growth that does occur. But I don't think that these two, it looks like their paths diverge, other than they do come back together to communicate, but it does not look like they end up in a union. So doesn't mean though that it wasn't um beneficial or thought-provoking or any of those things. No, in fact, I think this was a really thought-provoking story because it was covering things in a very different manner. It wasn't like, oh, we're just gonna get past some bad behavior and then get back in love or something. This storyline really had a lot more meat to it. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you guys for being here. If you do enjoy my art, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe. Thank you for hanging out with me. As I always say, it's just a different way to look at things, some different ways to get new ideas and inspiration. So I hope you enjoy it for what it is, and take care. Bye-bye.